This is day 703 of the Arukh HaShulchan. If you would like to sponsor Akram Shir more than Arukh HaShulchan, please come me directly. And we greatly appreciate it. Today we're doing Simon Tov Mem, Sipches, to Yudali. Ches, Tosh Chazal Meloshon Lemotzei, Chazal Darshan, that language that says it should not be found. That feel comes to Sheni Yehudi Amufkar B'Yisrael, Yisrael, even the comments of a non-Jew, which is in the given for safekeeping. To a Jew, Vayisol, Kibbul of Christ, if the Jew accepts responsibility, I raise the everybody Rabbi Motzei violates by Rabbi Motzei. Loshon Le Motzei, language that should not be found. Masher Shematzi B'Yodcha, something which is found in your hand. Zem Motzei B'Yodcha, this is found in your hand, even though you don't own it. The Bloch Christ is Losh Giach. If he didn't take responsibility, then he's not responsible. He doesn't have to pay attention to it. Slow, it's just lying there randomly as far as he's concerned. It's not concerned with it. Avashkibla Christ, if he accepts responsibility, you have to pay attention to chametz. Should not be lost. Not get ruined. So you shouldn't have to reimburse the non-Jew. That's called found in your hand. In terms of prohibition by Yeruah, it's considered to be like his. So it doesn't make a difference if chametz is in your house or somewhere else in your jurisdiction. Even though you don't see it. And even gave it for safekeeping to another non-Jew, it's not its owner. Saying like giving your chametz to a it's like giving your own chametz to a non-Jew just for pikadon, for safekeeping that you violate. Yes, sir. The Beer Lach does say that even though the second non-Jew was not Makabah Achrayas, it is permitted with in Hanoah after Pesach. Perhaps it'll come up in the Arukh HaShulchan as well. I don't know. It's a bit of a chiddush. And back to Arukh HaShulchan, because you could be on any of the Rishon. If you gave a safekeeping to the original non-Jew Shifkita, so who gave it to you, in order you don't violate. Even though the responsibility, if it got lost or stolen, is still in the Jew. Nevertheless, is permissible. It's like taking responsibility for a non-Jew's chametz in the house of the non-Jew. The mutter which is permissible. Here Shlokim say those who argue. The came when the chametz those say his chametz was once under the hand of the Jew, and he had responsible for it. When he went back and gave a safekeeping even to the initial non-Jew who owned it, have a kamavki chametz shows beyond it's as if you are giving him your own chametz safekeeping. For by Yeruah, do violate by Yeruah or by Motzei. You could Rishon the primary looks like the first opinion, which is that you're not over if you give back the original non-Jew. It's a Makor Chaim. Test. What if you gave this chametz, which belongs to the first non-Jew, and you accept responsibility for it, to a not other non-Jew? And the other non-Jew, he accepts himself all responsibility. Some say that in that case, they saw an over that the Jew doesn't violate. Those say the over that he does. The primary looks at the first opinion. Same here, so also Makor Chaim. Might have a shakre, whatever the Jew had, the second non-Jew took it away from him. Mr. Bura does not determine who's correct in this. Mount one o'clock is here. Those say the chametz it's Slovak Christ. Those say the chametz of a non-Jew that was given for saving him to you when you accept responsibility. You can't nullify it. The chemistabra makes sense. The Shabbosai says, but it was working. Or concurs. The Bishlam chametz shlo your own chametz yeshlo shus laf givatel. You can make hefker and nullify kaim shibas mana pesa. So the garment says the temple has been completely forbidden for you. The Gili died the sagi, and therefore what you have to do is reveal your intent. They don't want to have any affinity to it. Which time seem tough lamed out, like we wrote previously. I was at chametz shinishlo, but this chametz is not his. Like yeah, Pesach lo yasol b'ayim, it's not going to be forbidden to its non-Jewish owner. Only the Torah decreed, nonetheless, you're over by Yeruah, by Motzei, because it's in your house. Came basic in your jurisdiction. Basic koyach, what power you have over it to make it null or to make it hefker or null. But you have to say about love, you have to get back to its owner. They have no choice. It's the only way to get around it. If the owner's not around, sell it or eradicate it, and pay the non-Jew for having stolen from him or for having damaged him. The main Yehudi Hifkin it's slow. Non-Jew number one gave put his chametz in the house of non-Jew number two, but by Sokim of Achrai, the Jew accepted to be the guarantor. Came and chain a chametz be based on his house, chametz on his house. The zel kabbalas are the zel kabbalas Achrai the chametz shen Yehudi. So, and what you're doing is being kabbalah Achrai and the chametz of a non-Jew in a non-Jew's house. The mutter, it's okay. The malihu maliyach with him is to make it's the original non-Jew's house or the second non-Jew's house. Mr. Bora says if you have the chametz by you, which you're responsible for, of a non-Jew, whether bittul and mechira works, there are opinions in Achrai that many of them hold it doesn't work, and many of them hold it does work. Shulchan is not enthusiastic about it working, obviously. Mr. Bora writes according to Magen Avraham, you can also give it as a for safekeeping to another non-Jew, or sell the house if the chametz is there to a non-Jew, and the non-Jew accepts upon himself responsibility of theft or loss. And it's probable that both the Jew and the non-Jew together, so the Mekiras chametz, or the selling of the house, or the selling of the chametz. What happens? He did violate by holding on his chametz, which you have for safekeeping. You still get back to non-Jew after Pesach. You get back to non-Jew after Pesach is over. It's not like you're making money with a prohibited substance. Because the goods of chametz of Pesach, even if you saw chametz from a Jew after Pesach, and give it back to the original owner, even though it's forbidden for him. I know. You say what I stole is what I give it back. But I feel this is true. Not Jew. So that's true. If you can get back to the non-Jew. See, my pace is possible. You can let the non-Jew come and take his chametz. There's a problem. Shem Yimkor. Any Yehudi saw Achar Pesach. There's a problem that the non-Jew might sell that chametz to another Jew after Pesach because he saw Beisu chametz over Pesach. Then the second Jew who won't know will be over getting hano for chametz over Pesach, which he doesn't know that the Jew was responsible for part of Pesach. Because nevertheless, you don't have to take this into account. Get back to non-Jew what belongs to him. Ein lo shalem bar chashash. He doesn't have to pay because of this remote concern. This writes that those who hold that Chacham will not go there, Chametz Shabbal Pesach, they make the decree forbidding Chametz Shabbal Pesach by a Chametz of a non-Jew, which is even those given as a bikurim to Jews' hands. They were going to that you should not have by Rabbi Motzei. I mean, even by Rabbi Motzei, you offer by Motzei. But the Zera, the Bar of Chametz Shabbal Pesach, that doesn't apply in this case. You can rely on this upon him in order to, at least in order to be matir bahana, in order to make you derive benefit. But on the flip side, the Shabbat writes, if you have a true suspicion that a Jew might buy this chametz, which you're responsible for some part of Pesach, then he can't give it back to a non-Jew. Yurav, Be'ezach writes over by Ra. With what kind of responsibility do you violate by Ra? The two rights to dafka shem esocher, specifically when you're a shem esocher, a paid watchman. You're liable to pay in case of theft or loss. Shem bahag, because of that few shomer chinam. That's the read. But the bahag says even if you're a shomer chinam, you're an unpaid watchman. But and you're responsible for your own negligence. Mikra is still called responsibility. Ayin sham. May I remember there is sheriff. Seems like the first opinion. Or it's manifest as the first opinion. Sharikasi writes him kilo levi saw chrayashima avan anigdav. That's quite explicitly. If the shuk self responsibility if it's lost or stolen. Ayin sham. But that's Rosh. That's the bag. The Rosh holds like the bag. It's only even a shomer chinam. Keep your much because fantastic b'mitzia b'shem Rashi zal. According to that opinion, which takes the right name Rashi in b'mitzia pay base. The ain't no over only can't keep over Christ owns him. In Sham, it's only over if he has responsibility of a shoel, which means he's responsible even for an act of God. Pella, it's astonishing. The Bahag of Isa Gagin Aveda. The Bahag also has a language of theft and loss, which needs not to be applicable if you're just a Shem Rechinam. The Shem Perikos Shah, this is what he says. Vadai, the goy after Rabbi Chametz, a non-Jew gave a Jew chametz for safekeeping. Or the Jew accepted by himself safekeeping. Became the pasha bay umignav umispan mechayev shalim. Since if he's negligent, and it's lost, a stolen or lost, he has to pay. Mechayev libur has to eradicate as well. Akal shalim. Pikam no pshia. So it's kind of like a paradox. It's not kind of, it's paradox. Even if he has in mind, the issue is pshia as negligence, which would be shomer chinam lama saim chinam aveda. As we speak about theft and loss. If you're chayiv on pshia, you're still chayiv on gneva aveda. Ve'elbali d'haki kamar. Well, this was clear what he means to say. The achrayus of gneva aveda, his responsibility for theft and loss, gam zeu mehed shmira, comes as a result of his lack of safekeeping. Okay, amadi pasha bay. That's what he said. If he was negligent. Rosh Hashanah Farish Chibalish Abshia. Rosh seems to have learned not it was not because of Gnev Aveda, but he was on the Pshia itself. That's why even Shom Mechinam is chayav. By the Pshia, you know, by the negligence, it got lost or stolen or lost. You can't love it in Mamadina, they'll never. But then says Arukh HaShulchan, shouldn't have said. Fairly shouldn't have said stolen, just said lost. The Aveda Kovel Pshia. Loss is connected to negligence. But it's not clear. In Allah Mashiach says the Rishana, somebody says that it's only if it's at least a shom sachar that you're over by Ra. The das abag by Rosh Kosem Shemo Yoshemin. The opinion of the Bag Rosh even Shom Chinam is over. He writes the name of Yeshua. Probably the same Kuri Rashi traces by Rambam Masmag that it's only a shom sachar. It's a total prohibition by Matzah, so therefore it should be machmir, like the opinion that even Shomer Chinam is forbidden. The Shmuel says you should assume that even Shomer Chinam is forbidden and give it back to the non-Jew. If a non-Jew is not here, you can sell the chametz and nullify it. Usually you say the mechir is selling and nullifying chametz, which is not yours. Doesn't work, but since there are other tzodim here, you rely on those who are lenient, and I guess that's what he says. Continues to say the b'diavad, you rely on first opinion, and since you are not a shomer socher, you can leave the chametz until the non-Jew comes back to town. And if it comes back, basically give it back to him, and after Pesach, you're allowed to eat it. Really, even get back. I guess you came to some agreement, non-Jew to keep his chametz. You base, because the Rambam. Rambam writes, on us, an armed robber, she gave his chametz to Jew. If he knows that if it gets lost or stolen, the non-Jewish bandit will require him to pay the kofei bones of Hashem, and he will compel and coerce him to pay. Even though the Jew didn't accept responsibility, I raised the chayav of Aro. It's got eradicated. So as if it says, because the bandit is requiring him to be responsible for it. And go for the Rambam. But so how can violate by Ra if you're being compelled to hold on to the object? That the Gemara seems to bring down such a case. The din malchus dina velo banos. So they just want to say that this anos of the Rambam was doing it through dina malchus dina. Okay, he was a government bandit. That's why you're over by Roy. This time never comes around who Shulchan explains the Rambam. When the accept chametz, that was up to him. If he wants to doesn't have to accept the chametz, it says us. The burglar, the government official is not going to compel him to take it. Elishim kibel, if he accepts the chametz, and so Shalem is going to make him pay if and when it gets stolen or lost. He's a sharper over by rock. It's obviously by the rock. So it was implicit in the language of the Rambam. That the safekeeping was with the full acquiescence of the Jew. So let's say you put yourself with your own will into this situation. I mean, male have a kabbalah is automatically as if you completely accept responsibility. Female should be on if Shad low place of cloud places it's possible the players can not argue at all. Mishabur writes the primary opinion is the first opinion, which is that that's what the first opinion is. I guess even if you're compelled to take it, you're still over. However, if you didn't, we're not vire it, eradicate, and Pesach passed, you don't do machmir. You don't even eat it again. Okay? So you make on the Chamisha Pesach issue. You came of Yeshua, those who say the Fidas of Rambam, according to Rambam, the guy made the onus of Bayra. You by outright compelling, you violate Bayra. Mishabur is trying to say, Mishabur is kind of passing like that. You came Mechios Chametz Shalona, if that's the case, but I'm Mechios Chametz. Shazokfim Amos B'milveh, where we say that the non-Jew owes us the money, just gives down payment. We only accept the symbolic payment. It's clear. Chametz gets lost. The non-Jew is not going to pay. You can't have a Arukh HaShulchan Yisrael. So that's the case. It's as if the responsibility of Chametz is on the Jew. Violated by Raw. It should be violated by Raw. What do you do? That's if the cell, specifically the room where the chametz is lying. Does have a kabbalah of Christ based on Yehudi, because then it's like the Jew is mekabel achrayus, a chametz in the non-Jew's house, which already said is not over by Raw. So it has to be that not just the chametz itself, but the room where the chametz is bestowed upon the non-Jew in the cell. But we have a different way out of this. He says, we make a Jew a guarantor for the non-Jew, for this buyer. And so there's no problem. The Mloifra, he doesn't pay up. We're going to demand it from the guarantor. But anyway, so the room as well. Become explained. Account of selling, I don't know what he means. Not much love. Somebody's going to explain it there. Okay, you doubt. Because of a Torah, if you had slow, Torah writes, if you were mafkid by the non-Jew, the chametz, no, the non-Jew gave you the chametz for the safekeeping. Kibbutz rice, you have to accept responsibility. Chayvaro, you have to eradicate it. Yichel Mokiv designated a specific place for it. Shamal said, "Hina bayis manecha." House is in front of you. Hanichov mokum shetirtze. Live it in, put in the place where you want. And now just selects the place, which now becomes the place. Answer Kavara, don't have to eradicate it. Perish Rashi, Shul Kibbutz Achrayus. Rashi says, well, it's only about we didn't accept responsibility. But time perish, I feel Kibbutz Achrayus. No, Rabbi Tam says, even accept responsibility. Came to Yichel Mokum, since you designated a place for it, and what's it so it's not called present in your house. Says Kimadoni of your Rosh Sa, Akan Shonra. The Rosh can agree with this. End quote. Pira Dvorim. What does the Torah mean to say? So that was the Jew obligated, the Torah obligated Jew. She have a buy or fine impose upon the penalty. She have a buy and he violates by Rabbi because Yehudi with something given to him for safekeeping by not Jew. I'll pick up yes, it makes a responsibility. That's only true by chametz. Because this only causes money. In other words, it's not really yours. But if it gets lost, you have to pay money for it. Normally say the thing which will cause you to have to pay money is not as if you actually own it now. But pay above. But by the chametz, the Torah is not just by your but also by your motzei. The mashmatsubi al that which is found in your hands, you violate. Cannot be achrayus having motzei biyadcha. So accepting responsibility makes it motzei by you, found by you. K'mo shishmar zivches. Like we said previously, that's if you accept responsibility on the chametz of non-Jew in the non-Jew's house and over him. It's not violate. It's not present in your hands. And also when you designate for him a place in your house, have it like a base of Shen Yehudi, it's like the house of non-Jew. It's not as if it's present in your hands. Rambam near Lahedi L'Sober Karashi. It seems that he holds explicitly like Rashi that it's only if you weren't Makabel Achrayas that it's okay. And Makabel Achrayas. Yusek Shem Lo Rak Habayis Lefanach. He tells him the house is in front of you. Yichlo Karen Zov. So he gave us a distinct corner. Shita Vil Rashi Ram Imako Rashi Ram. It's obvious. Ain't over by Ra Makabel Achrayas. So you don't violate by Ra. You accept responsibility. This is a magical base to do because then it becomes like the house of the non-Jew. Yeshua says even you rented or loaned a place to the non-Jew, it doesn't work if you're Makabel Achrayas. Just like Rashi. But if he left the chametz after Pesach, on the poskim who say that's okay, and keep the chametz after Pesach and derive benefit of it. Shartian says, even though your rabbi determined that b'yevet it's mutter, even but when he said to him, "Here's my house in front of you," that is also called you designate a place, because you're not physically taking it under your own jurisdiction. Never it's difficult to make so much. Which Rashid said, designated place is defined as when you designate for him a house or a room or a corner in your house as by a rental or by loan. But if you encable the option for saving from the non-Jew without designating a place for it, and then after you use the place for yourself without the input of the non-Jew, that doesn't work. And even made a mechitza around it, it doesn't work either.